Today we're off on an adventure. We are heading to Brands Hatch for the first race of the calendar for our 116i Sprints, our 120i Coupe Cups and the 116i Trophy. I used to do tuning on the road cars and coding and the electronics. It's not just Lego and soldering, there's also other bits and pieces, and some of this would be the tuning for the road cars. Eventually then it crossed over into the motorsport side as well. I think the first one I was involved with was the Compact Cup, and that is M44 1.9s. Starting up a few years after that would have been the 116i Trophy. Some of the first things to do with the 116 as soon as I got involved was, first off, we got to make sure these things can be race cars. Second year then, once we knew we got everything running well, started moving then into the tuning side. So we have raised rev limiters, the idle speeds increased, we've got tuning in our fuel ignition and advance. We have our cam timing changes, so again, because we got the Vanos, we have control of our cam timing. We found a good bit of power in some changes to those kind of settings. On the physical side then, we have a larger throttle body, a larger airbox, map sensors, some changes in that, and I'm doing some of that stuff in the electronics, and I will show you all that later on. When I get close to the car, I'll give you a full walk around and we'll tell you all about that cars as well. Anyway, as they say in racing, to finish first you need to finish. So first thing we need to do is get to the track. So we're here, we made it, we're at Brands Hatch now, and I had a call on the way down. There's a guy with a red Compact with an M3 engine in. He has some cam sensor fault codes, TPS sensor codes, and a few other bits and pieces. So we're gonna have a look at that and a bit of a walk around and see who else is around and what else, and just make sure that everyone else is all right. So it's a test day today. There's no proper racing going on, but obviously you can get out on the track and try your car out, and you can race against the other people, but obviously it's not like your championships kind of stuff. So it's just trying the cars out, checking out your suspension settings, all that kind of stuff. So a good bit of fun, and the fun is starting. So car behind us, if we can see that one there, that is a Compact. It has a 3-litre M3 engine in that has been playing up, and there's been a bunch of weird fault codes on it, cam position sensors and throttle position sensors and other stuff like that, and we're starting to get to what's going on here. So firstly, it looks like we had the plugs transposed for the TPS and one of the cam sensors, and also we might have a mix up between some cam sensors and Vanos sensors, as there's a lot of different sensors on them. So I'll just give you a look now and you can see what some of these sensors are. So we are trackside and we're looking through now some of these bits and pieces and trying to figure out which sensors are which. So on this you will see we have one sensor here, and another one. He would have been hiding back just in that hole there. So this one here is the cam sensor that goes off to the engine ECU. That tells the engine ECU all about the sparking. These two other ones just go directly off to the VNC controller. And with plugging in some of these things, we have found some difference in the wiring. So yellow is our signal, and on some of the plugs, the one that I was plugged into, we found yellow in the middle. So that's suggesting that was in the wrong plug. So we're going to have to try and figure out which is which. And we've also got some other ones. I think that one's going to be maybe the radiator temp sensor as well. But at least we're onto something, and we've got something to get our teeth into. So our red M3 Compact will be coming around any minute now. The guys have been moving some wires around. I can't see it, just gone past now. The guys have moved some wires around on the cam sensors, as something we found out was on some of the plugs we had the yellow wire, which is the signal, on pin 1, and other plugs, it was on pin 2, including one of the plugs, it was on, a yellow was coming in on pin 1 and going out on the other side on pin 2. So that suggests it's either it's the wrong plug or the wrong sensor, or something's going on there. And the weird thing is we seem to have 2 plugs which have a yellow signal wire in the middle. And my wiring diagram is only showing the one, so we might have to strip that down a bit now and pin it out back to our engine ECU and our Vanos controller to see exactly which plug is which, as there's a good chance that either some of them have been moved around or some of them have been unpinned and put back in the wrong spot. And first, we also need to figure out what plug is for which. So we've got another bit of work there to do on that one, so we'll see how that one goes. In fact, we have session suspended now, so someone's gone off somewhere. Recovery truck's just gone out. Don't see where the car is. Our compact was still on the track though, so he's going to be okay. In fact, it's got to be just up there because I see the recovery truck moving around. So I'll head back over to the guys and see how they're getting on. And the session's back on again, so the cars are out. There's a lot of BMWs, it's mostly BMWs we have here. It's not just the 116s and 120s, there's a few other BMs out there in the mix as well. But it does seem that it's one of the 120s that was recovered from the track. I didn't see any damage on that, but we're going over and we'll have a look and see what's up with his. Well, that all seems to be successful. So the guys moved some wires around and the cam sensor fault codes have gone, also the TPS stuff. So that seems to be okay. Although we still could have some issues on the VNC Vanos controller, as that isn't at the moment being contacted on diagnostics, but might not be fully wired in. And there's a chance that if that could be playing up, you might not see anything showing up in the engine ECU. So we're certainly better, we're looking well, but a little bit of extra checks now into that VNC controller. Make sure that's actually all powering up and doing its cam control the way it should, because it does sound a little bit lumpy at the moment. There is another session just going out now for testing. This is mostly MX-5, so they'll be out on the track for the next 20 minutes, half an hour or so, getting themselves ready for their racing at the weekend. So on to our M3 compact. We've got the Vanos controller out, and I think we've got a bit of corrosion around this socket. So you can see some of these pins are looking a bit grey and not very shiny compared to the others. So we're going to give that a bit of a clean up and see if that will help. There is our chip that comes out. This is going to be, I imagine this should be our main processor. That's the EEPROM that has our tables in there for our Vanos control. There isn't really a hell of a lot inside of these things. We've got a couple of big ones here. I think these might be the main drivers that actually move the Vanos solenoids, or it might be these ones. These ones here are probably the ones that are going to take the cam sensor signals. This thing here, no idea what it does, and there's our timing crystal for that. So, oh, and that one there will be our EEPROM where the fault codes are being stored. So I think maybe we had a little bit of corrosion on this and that wasn't doing what it was. So we're going to give that a bit of a clean up and see if that will help. Zipping into the future now. This is Sunday and here is our M3 compact, and after a midnight run to go and get a VNC computer, it is now showing up on the diagnostic. So 100% we have something up with that Vanos controller. So things are looking a lot better. Our engine ECU isn't complaining about cam sensor anymore. Our other kind of faults have gone, but we still do have air mass sensor turning up every now and again, and that's not a genuine air mass sensor. The original one, which I believe was changed before because they thought it was faulty, they're going to go back to that one, try that out and keep an eye on the fault codes. But the car came in and third in class, so fantastic result. Brands Hatch Saturday morning and our qualifying has started. So what we have out now are the 116Is and the 120Is. for the sprint series. We got 2 qualifying sessions first off, and then the races a little bit later on today. So while we haven't come across too many issues, there has been a new car that has been burning a lot of oil. It looks like it goes through about 2 litres in 15 minutes, so something is up with that one. It possibly could be valve stem seals, maybe something to do with the breather system, but what they're going to do is they're going to send it out now anyway. They're here, the engine, they're going to go for a rebuild on the engine anyway, so you paid your money, you take it out, you see what it can do. So the qualifying is going on through now. This is going to be qualifying for the first race to set up the grids, and shortly after we're going to have the second qualifying session for the second race. So a little bit of a look now at the running. So behind us we have noise testing as the cars are lining up. These are at the moment out on the track. We have our second qualifying session for the 116 and the 120s, and the next set are coming in. So behind us you can see the marshals there doing noise testing on these cars, and they will then go through into the assembly area, which is where you can see them being pulled up behind me. Once we're going to be clear on our qualifying session, they'll be next on and they'll be moving into it, and then once they come off, you also then have the scrutineering bay, which is this there just behind me now. Once they come through out of qualifying, they will come into the scrutineering bay. The scrutineers there can check the cars over. There's various things they can do. They can be weighing them, there can be particular spot checks on certain things that will be done, and that's one of the things that I'm going to be slightly involved with, as I'm also one of the people that will be checking the engine ECUs and the electronics on them, as the majority of the scrutineers wouldn't be able to do the stuff that I'd be able to do. They wouldn't be able to pull the files off the car and check them. So they do obviously all their mechanical side, but in the series we do have to have a control ECU, which is the one that I supply, and to make sure that everybody's on the same thing, I would then occasionally do spot checks. We'll read out the data on it and just compare it against the reference stuff to make sure everyone's got everything as it should be. And of course, a quick little look at the pit lane. So the flag has just dropped on the second qualifying session. The cars will be coming down in a minute. 116s and 120s, we do have this top set of garages, which is pretty handy, certainly for things like the endurance race that will be going on tomorrow, as the cars will need to come in and out for pit stops. But the cars will start coming in now, and they will come in through the scrutineering bay, and we'll be sort of checked over for bits and pieces, just make sure that everything is ship-shape and Bristol fashion. Peace and quiet, which is pretty unusual. Now I just heard a horn go, so I think any minute now the next set that we saw sitting there in assembly will start moving out, and they'll be going for their qualifying session. But for our 116 and our 120s, the qualifying is over, and there's about a 3-hour window now until the first race. That gives a few of the garages and the teams a little bit of a chance to do any last minute changes, anything that they notice now in the qualifying. If they feel like they need to make some changes to bits and pieces, changes to the setup, they've got a little bit of a window now to do that. So there's going to be a bit of peace and quiet, I guess, although we never know. There might be some urgent calls for assistance, so we'll have to see how that goes, but looks like everything is pretty calm. This is one of the 120i race cars. This is part of the 120i Coupe Cup. You can see there on the head on the sun strip, and there's our engine. So again, that is a standard engine, the standard kind of a trim. We do have some extra stuff and bits and pieces there, like oil cooler, but other than that, mechanically it's pretty standard. It hasn't really been opened up apart from stuff like oil baffles and sumps, and I believe we've got some stronger rod bolts on there as well. Suspension is done by Gaz Shocks. They've been supporting the series, both the 120 coupes and the 116s, right from the start. And what else do we have? We obviously have a roll cage in there. At the moment they're looking for the transponder, as they have been told there was an issue with their transponder, and it looks like the issue is it might have fallen off. So no sign of the transponder. We do have a little transponder tracker who's been used on the car, and that isn't picking up anything. And all of the usual locations where the transponder would have been, down here on some of these strut legs, nothing showing up. The transponder is used for the live timing. So as the cars are going around the track, the transponder will ping a signal off to the timekeepers, and that's how they get the accurate timing of all these race cars as they're going around, and that way they can figure out who's doing what. Let's do a little bit of a look inside the car now. So we have a full roll cage in there. We've got our single race seat. You can fit a second seat in there as well. Sometimes on some of the track days they might have a second seat fitted and other people taken out, but in race trim we only have the single seat. We have the standard dashboard. The steering wheel obviously is a race steering wheel, and a Boss on there as well. We can see our radio is gone. We've got a Race Logic lap timer in there. In the middle we have our E, which is our fire extinguisher. So you can pull that one there and that will extinguish the engine bay. And also that the one next to it with a little lightning bolt, that is the electric cut-off. So that one there will also cut power to the rest of the car. And this is how tracking is done at the track. So if somebody there says, right, we're going to change the camber or the toe or any kind of suspension settings, it'll all be set up with a string line setup. And these string line setups, they are pretty common. Most of the teams here will have a set of these. And the mechanics here are pretty good. They'll be able to sort out the tracking in these things probably about 20 minutes or less. So it's a well-oiled kind of a system. They're getting up there onto our tables. These tables will level it all up, make sure everything is spot on, and then they're going to set up the string lines and get the rest of their angles and stuff set up just the way the driver wants it. Well, we have come across something. So one of the drivers has contacted me saying they had some issues where we had stalling from the car coming in from qualifying. So what I'm doing is I'm going to have a quick check over and see what's happening. So we don't have any fault codes of anything particular. We do have one about plausibility RAM backup. That's something that you will get on these cars with a kill switch, and if you just pull the plug and it doesn't do its soft turn off, you can get a code, and that's not something to worry about. But going through, there are some things that I can look at just to sort of check how things are going. So make sure that we're reading airflow and our temperatures are in the right kind of ballpark, so we know our sensors are working. Going into this smooth running, and nothing there's particularly standing out, so there's no particular cylinder that isn't really pulling its weight. In here we can see our lambda sensors. Our post-cat lambda sensor sits at 0.45 as it's unplugged, as that's not being used at the moment, as we have the catalytic converter at the back of the car. This is our front lambda sensor, and that will work once we warm it. If I give it a little bit of a rev, we can start to see a reaction from that. So we know again the lambda sensor is working. But something that does seem to be interesting is I have a look here at the Vanos. We do see this duty cycle kicking around a bit. So what we have here, this one is the actual value of the inlet cam, actual value of the exhaust cam, and underneath these two bars, their percentage duty cycle control of the Vanos solenoids. So when the ECU is going to activate it, it will be switching the oil pressure on and off to hold the cams at a particular position. If you see it just full zero, then it's wanting the spring to move it. If you see this 100%, it's wanting oil pressure to move it. And if it's hanging around somewhere in the middle, then it's under control with a duty cycle holding it in exactly the position it wants. But certainly here on our exhaust cam, we're getting quite a lot of jitter in there, and that can come from an unsteady idle, and the idle is a little bit unsteady. So it's one of these things that you get sort of a feedback loop that on the poor control of the Vanos could give you a poor idle, or poor idle could mean that the Vanos kicks around, but that's something that is standing out to me. So it could be something to do with the Vanos solenoids. It might be air needs to be bled out of the Vanos. It's kind of rare on these engines, but it does turn up every now and again. But usually just driving them hard and get the oil temperature up to, well, getting the oil temperature high, that will thin the oil out a bit, and it'll pump itself around, it'll bleed itself out, and then you get the full pressure of the oil going into the Vanos solenoid and doing everything as it should do. So we got something interesting there. Not quite sure what it is. The driver's off at a driver's briefing right now, but we'll have a look a bit more into some tests on this and see what we come up with. And this here again might be something of interest. So what we can see here, our top line here is the set point for the RPM. That's what it wants to be idling at. This value here is the percentage filling of the cylinders, and we're reading about 29%, when according to this it should be 25%. So it's almost as if it's dragging in too much air at the moment. Most of these cars, these values would be pretty much identical. And obviously we did say that we do have a different airflow meter in here, and that should all be calibrated. So with the settings that I've done, the ECU and the different airbox, those values should be matching up better than what they are at the moment. So I think we've got it. So earlier on, when I mentioned about the airflow, it was reading higher than expected, and I think that's the reason. I think this is still the original 116i airbox with the smaller tube going through and a smaller MAF. What we should have on this is the 120i one, and this will be a bigger tube, and a bigger tube down through here. The MAF sensor is hiding in under here, but on the 120s, that thing there isn't a MAF. It has only just an intake temperature sensor. The 120s have different kind of controls on it, so they don't actually have an airflow meter. They do a lot of stuff on manifold pressure instead. So when you swap one of these to the 2-litre version, you do need to take out that element from the 116, as this one does measure air. Stick that into our 2-litre housing, into the wider tube, and that then matches up with the calibration inside the ECU, as it's only sampling a small amount of air in the middle. To give a kind of a simile, this would be like giving you the total flow down a motorway by just looking at the traffic in one lane. Now, if you can count, say, all the cars you've got in lane 3, you can calibrate your stuff by finding out how much it is further on, and then from that you'd know if I have 200 cars an hour in lane 3, the total stuff passing through is going to be something like 600 cars. If you added extra lanes onto that, the traffic's going to spread out, and then all of your calculations are out. So I think we have something, and if we look at this, we can see the distance on the ribs. This, I believe, is the smaller tube, and if we go over to another car now, this one is the 120i airbox, and this is the kind of pipe, and you can see how those ribs are a lot smaller, and this is the wider tube. So I think we've got our issue. So what we'll have to do now is swap that over, and then we'll recheck some of our stuff and see if our values then for our airflow is start matching up with how they should be. Airbox has now been swapped. We have the 120i airbox on, the 120i elbow, and the 116 MAF sensing element inside. So we now want to have a look back at our status, faster. Let's have a look at our cam stuff. It's still jumping around a little bit, but let's have a look at our airflow now. So we wanted to go faster 2, and there we go, perfect. So there is our actual relative air mass coming in, 21%, and this one is what the ECU is calculating and expecting, and we can see that's it, that pretty much bang on. So it looks like we've got our issue, and hopefully this will then change change the performance on this car completely when he goes out for the race. That's going to be at 2, and it is about 20 to 1, so about an hour 20 minutes now till the first race of the season. Okay, and we are running on the first race of our 116i and 120i sprints. So they just started, they're running a little bit earlier than planned, but they're all out there. So far, I believe everyone's made it around, and it looks like we're getting some good racing. Fortunately, one of our first retirees of the race. We're not sure what is up with this at the moment. The mechanics are checking it out. Whether we'll be able to get back out or not, we don't know. Okay, and it's going in. So it sounds to be some sort of a drivetrain issue. Could be differential or gearbox, but sadly it looks like it's game over for this driver. Another coming in, a 120i. Checking out with the mechanics to see what it is, but looks like, are they going to go out again? Okay, maybe, in fact, I think we're going to get a puncture, so maybe they're going to swap the wheel. No, sadly not. And the horn means another car coming in then to the pit lane, and it looks to be car 51. Nose into the garages, that usually means it's game over. It is a bit of a mixed grid. Our faster cars are the 120i's. By now they have come round and they are beginning to lap the 116s. The 116s, there's more of a fight between those as there is more of them out at the moment. And there's some very close racing going on between a couple of those drivers. So that's what we have here. A bit of contact, a bit of damage on this thing. But there's a good few hours, well, there's about an hour or so before the next race, maybe a little bit longer. I'm sure they'll have this ready for the second race of the day. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our first race over. We have the cars coming in now, and this is the Parc Fermé section where they're going to be held for scrutineering. There's a few cars that will be dragged into here, and various spot checks will be done. And here are our winners. So for the 120i's, we have, it looks like Anthony Seddon, and then Peter Keane in the 116i class. And we're here in the scrutineering bay, and there's a few cars being checked just for the weight limits now, and a few others that there have been some questions raised about some of the vehicles. They're also getting a bit of an extra spot check by the scrutineers. But that's about as much as I can show you, as we can't film inside of here, because we want to keep it secret what people are checking on. That's the BMW CCR we see out on track at the moment, and we are now lining up in assembly for the last race of the evening and the second race of today for the 116i Trophy and the 120 Coupe Cup. So here's all of our cars getting ready. Once it'll be clear, they'll be directed out on track, form up on the grid. One lap first off, then back onto the grid, and then wait for the green light, ready to go. So a good few cars have managed to make themselves back after issues earlier on. There is one of these 120s that again came in with some damage. That has all been repaired. The mechanics have been working very hard on these kind of things. We have had quite a gap between the races, so that took a bit of pressure off, but again, still, it's not an easy job when you are on the clock to get something done. But at least when you've got a couple of hours, these are the kind of guys that can make anything happen. 120s with drivetrain problems. I believe it might be a drive shaft gone. There's a fair bit of rattling and clunking as this thing's moving around. It barely can move under its own power, but that will all get fixed anyway. Not a problem. They've got plenty of people here and plenty of decent mechanics. And there we have it, the first day of our racing calendar over. And we have, I believe that's Matt Priestwood in the 120i coming in first place. And in the 116 series, I believe it was Peter Keane. But again, we might need to check and see what happens on that once we get the final results. So they're going to come in now. A few of them are going to get weighed and then they'll get sent off. And that's it for the first day of the calendar for the 116 series and the 120i Coupe Cup. Tomorrow will be the 116 trophy, and that's our endurance race. Sunday morning now at Brands Hatch, and it's the big day for us, and it's the 116i trophy, and that is the 90-minute endurance race. So that's a big one coming up. We've got about 40 cars in that. I'll have to get a check on the grid numbers, but there's a big grid. Some of them are just lining up now into assembly, mainly because of the numbers. There's already some in assembly at the moment, but because of the amount of cars to stack up, they're starting early on this to get them all in. So the race is going to be a rolling start. Can't do a grid start with this amount of cars. We had a grid start yesterday with the sprints, but with the amount of cars we got, we go straight into a rolling start. There's pit stops as well. You can have up to 3 drivers per team, and there has to be a mandatory 2 pit stops. Even if you're not swapping drivers, you still need to come in, put the car up, park it up for 1 minute, and that will allow it so if you're not changing drivers, at least you're not going to be flying ahead and skipping pit stops because you don't need to come in. It's also the launch of Trophy TV as well today, so you'll be able to see what a proper camera crew and film team can do about this kind of stuff. They'll be doing some social media stuff. I will get a link to that in the comments, and that's going to have interviews with the drivers and should be a proper show, and they're going to cover all the races as well. You can see the other cars coming in. So what's coming in behind me now, this is a historic 750. I believe that even got an Austin 7 going past. Some of these cars you would not recognise them, but they're fantastic looking cars. All sorts of crazy stuff. It's wonderful to see some of the other cars we've got out here as well. In assembly now, getting ready for the qualifying. We have all the cars lining up. The qualifying now is a case of it's first come, first served. You get out there, find yourself a place in the queue, and you get out there and you've got to set your fastest time, and that will then set the grid for the race. Once the grid is set, you will see the numbers here on the fence behind me. The marshal then will pull all the cars into particular spots and release them out onto track in the right order, and then they're going to go around to do a lap first off to get themselves in position. And when the green flag goes up, they'll have to carry on round, following around until they pass the checkered, the stop start line, and that's, I can't overtake until they reach that point. So you'll often see a lot of tactics of waiting right until the last minute getting up as close as they can, not wanting to pull a lead on anyone else, but then trying to just slipstream someone and get that first overtake just as they cross that line. And that's some amazing racing to be watching. Qualifying is not off to a good start today, so we've got about 1 or 2 laps in for someone, and then we've got a red flag. Someone has gone off just in the background behind me. The cloud of dust has just moved away now, but we're not quite sure who that is or what's going on. But the guys, they're still going to get out there. Obviously, they need to get 3 laps in to qualify and go racing. So hopefully this will get cleared up fairly soon, and then we'll get out and we'll get a look at our grid order. It is amazingly quiet now. So everybody's come into the pit lane. We're waiting for the track to be cleared. We did see a forklift go out there and a recovery truck. So someone's out in the gravel trap. I have heard people saying that the car rolled, but you hear that a lot, to be honest. Every time there's an accident, oh, someone rolled it, someone rolled it. But you can see all the cars lining up there. That's one of the 750 historics just starting up in front of me. I'm at the start of the pit lane, and everyone there is waiting up. And when we're ready to go, I believe we will get a call out from the marshals. Make sure all the drivers, sometimes you do get the drivers will wander away from the cars for a minute, but stay with your cars. We'll get a call out with a few seconds to go. We're able to get in, helmets on, started up, belted in, and ready to go back out again for our qualifying. Up behind me by the marshal post and the start finish flag, you might be able to see it says 15-minute delay. So that's likely to be some repairs on some barriers and get that stuff all ready. The drivers now, they do have a chance of getting out and stretching their legs. There will apparently be a heads up to make sure they're all in and to get ready to go. And that now we can see everyone there stretched up the pit lane, waiting, ready to go. 5 minutes to go, so all the drivers now told, get up to their cars, get into them, get ready, and we're going. How are we doing, Graham?
All right.
Looking forward to it.
We don't know whether it's going to be short session or not.
Right, well I suppose it's what, minimum 3 laps, isn't it, to qualify? Yeah, okay. So
session should be normal length.
Normal
length, so there we go, confirmed.
At this moment in time.
So yeah, we'll make sure all the drivers are back to their cars, helmets on, belted on, ready to go, as we want to get out as soon as possible and get this done. Green flag being waved, and we're away now. Carry on without qualifying. Qualifying is still running in the background. We'll see a few of the cars coming round any minute now and climbing the hill. But unfortunately our car over there behind me, it did roll, and that's going to be game over. And the roof has gone, the windscreen's gone, and we got a lot of damage to the front suspension. And I don't think that's going to get fixed today. The driver, I haven't heard a word about the driver. I believe he's okay, but he's probably in the medical centre getting checked out at the moment. We have the scrutineers now checking out that car, having a look at it, and just making sure that everything is, well, at least safe. I guess, make sure there was no issues with the car to start off with. There will be sort of going over with a fine-tooth comb. There's always like an investigation into these accidents to find out why they happened, to see if they can be avoided in the future. So let's have a look at the star of our show, the 116, which we are out here racing. So the engine on this one is the N45 in standard trim on a road car. They're about 115 horsepower. But with our race trim and our tuning on our various bits and pieces, we're getting up very close to about 130, and the extra power building all the way up to 7,000 RPM on our limiter. We can see some of the changes we've got. We have Gaz Shocks on there. They're adjustable on the rear, adjustable damping on the rear, fixed on the front. You can see our adjustable top mounts built into there as well. On the mechanical side, we have a larger throttle body here from the 2 litre. The airbox is also from the 2 litre. This is a wider MAF tube. We mentioned that yesterday when we saw one that had the 116 on. This is our larger 2 litre tube, and our air sensor element fits into there, where we have to take out the 116 one, as that's a genuine MAF that measures airflow compared to the 2-litre version, which is only just looking at air temperature. This one here, we have an oil cooler adapter plate fitted onto there, running through an oil cooler through to the front. Again, that's optional, you don't need to run that, but some of the drivers prefer to do it. Keep the oil temperature a little bit more stable. And the engine overall is quite a simple engine. So we do have dual Vanos, the solenoids are hiding just down there. Now we can just see the clamps on them. It's very hard to tell, for me at least, which one is which. We have intake and exhaust, but on these ones they do seem to sit one on top of each other. So quite often what I end up doing is just unplugging one and seeing what fault code turns up. So they are very reliable engines. There's very little in terms of complexity. We don't have any Valtronic on them. The 120s were a direct injection engine, and those are the kind of things where you have to have the injector, they have to be spot on. They're piezo injectors, and they are quite finicky, and unfortunately they're very expensive. BMW, I think we're up to Index 11. That's the 11th generation of those injectors, trying to get them running well. Something else we can see just here is this little bolt. This would have been for a strut brace that carries on through into the middle. It would connect to a big bolt just underneath here. That's, I think, essentially works as the access cover for these V-bars. Now, not all of those cars come with the V-bars. These particular 116s are, I guess there was 2 of them. This is the early generation with a Bosch ME9. The second generation was an ME17. But again, different ECUs, different electronics, even though we had the same N45 engine. Some of them could also come with these bars on, but because not all of the cars had the bars on them, they might not all have this bracket on there, this mounting section. So the part of the rules are you run without that. If you had that fitted, you take it off so everybody else matches up the same. And here's a look inside the 116. Here we have a future racing driver getting ready and feeling in. So these are the changes that we have. Bright orange here, we can see the roll cage. We've got a lap timer built in. So everything is tends to be stripped out. We have obviously our racing seat and our harnesses in here as well. We've got a racing steering wheel. Children is not included just yet, but this guy, you're going to be a racing driver when you grow up? Yeah. He sure is. And let's have a look. So in the center then, we have some of our safety stuff. The big red switch is an electrical kill switch. We also have a fire extinguisher built in. We can see we've got a flock dashboard on this one as well to cut down on reflections. And let's have a look now towards the back of the car. And a view in from the back. So we can see the spare wheel well has been taken out there, and we've got a plate over the top. I don't know, actually there would have been a spare wheel in there. It does look very small. But that section has been taken out, which is the rest of the car stripped out. Our fire extinguisher, we can just see them. Sometimes we'll also see a battery in the front. I can't quite see the battery. They'll swap to quite a small, I'd often think it might be a motorbike battery that's in them, or sometimes a lithium race battery, and that can often be sitting up there in the front. Here we have our shock mounts and so on. The adjustability, I believe, is on the side of the shocks. There he is, the little battery. I knew he was going to be in here somewhere. And also cameras. So front and rear cameras are also mandatory in this series, mainly because it's obviously every car has got like a dash cam out there. So if there's ever an incident, they will be called up to race control, told bring your SD cards, and we want to see now what you did, what other people did, and it all helps there, keeping everything fair, legal and safe. The exhaust there is done by Clarius, and we can see that we have the catalytic converter sitting there at the back. That gives at least a good view, so we know that no one's decatting or drilling any holes to them, and we can see them all in there. For the majority of motorsport now, all the cars do need to have a catalytic converter to keep them green. Here's some of the wheels. So the tyres we have, they are, let me have a look. They are, it's a control tyre. It's a Nankang, and it's NS2, is it? NS2 from Nankang, and they're sorted out. I believe they're in fact a special compound. They can adjust the compound, and because it's a fairly decent large series, We can in fact order them in particular kind of compounds that suit the racing better, because it's a 90-minute race. Brakes are of the standard type, and the standard calipers still on there, and we can't see it in the back, but we do then have the Gaz Gold custom coilovers. And again, Gaz have fine-tuned these ones over the 5 or 6 years now that we've been running the series to get them up for the spring rates and damping rates suitable for these cars and suitable how they're driving. And people now, they've got them dialed in and they're fantastic. It's a lot of experience has been built up now with these drivers, and so the racing is very close. In our qualifying, I believe the top 5 were all 59.6 seconds, so very close racing. Other than that, the silhouette of the car also remains the same. We don't go for any spoilers or big wings on the back, and the bumpers at the moment are in fact the standard SE trim, I suppose you could call it, not the sport bumpers. Looking into the sport bumpers, we found they are in fact a little bit lower at the front, and that can change stuff, because obviously that might end up being the lowest point on the car. So there is some talk of maybe allowing sport bumpers at some point at the future, but if that's the case, we might still have to look into altering some stuff to do with our ride height and our ride height levels. And it's all starting to get busy now, as all of our trophy cars are lining up in the assembly area ready for our race. Behind me there we have the #1 car from the Anthony Seddon Racing team, and that's going to be Matt Priestwood driving that one. He's a very fast driver, and you can see how all of the numbers, you'll see them there on the fence. So the cars are all lined up then in their positions in grid order, released out to track then, and obviously, as we said before, it's a rolling start from the numbers. They will form out on the track, go around first, and then when the green flag drops, they're ready to race. You cannot pass until you pass the start finish line. So the safety car is coming in now. That completed the first green flag lap. The cars will pile up again behind them, and we'll see them coming through now. Now this is going to be the second green flag lap, and we are racing as soon as they pass the start finish line. We are about 6-7 laps in now to the race. We have Matt Priestwood pulling quite a lead on the front, followed by Will Abraham, George Lever and Dixie Key in fourth position. The rest of the pack are starting to spread out, but you will find little groups every now and again, and there can be tussles in between them. Some of the cars coming in two abreast into the corners and battling. A little bit of tail slide action there from car 34 and the rest of them. And you can see the size of the grid with the length that it takes for all of these cars to pass by. It's all pretty quiet in the pit lane as well right now, but that will be changing fairly soon when the pit window opens. So as this part of the race series, and it can have driver swaps, there is a mandatory 2 pit stops that need to be made. That pit window will be opening in about 5-10 minutes, and as soon as that happens, we'll often see a massive rush of cars coming in. During these pit stops, the cars will come in on a 45 degree, as there's not enough space for everyone to pack in to their garages, so we'll often see them coming in there and stacking up and trying to find some place to come in. They need to stop static for 1 minute, and that is all checked as well by some of the marshals, and then they have to have a push back to be released. They cannot go back under their own power. And the pit window is now open. We have some of the cars coming in already. You can see the mechanics moving up into the pit line, getting themselves ready as soon as the cars to come in, and they're going to be doing so. Mainly if there's going to be a driver swap, they'll be getting into that. I think for most of these ones they might be single drivers, and they'll just check over stuff like tyre pressures and so on, make sure the driver's happy with the car and the setup, and then they'll do the, as I said, the push back and then the release out into the track. There goes Matt Priestwood, the leader at the moment. Our first pit window has closed. You can just see a flashing blue light there to tell the drivers that they might be encountering back markers, and to tell the drivers to watch out for faster cars coming from behind. So new to this season, the pit window has been split into two separate windows. So everyone out on track has done their one pit stop at the moment. Spread out quite a bit now, but we still have little battles, and also some of the leaders are having to pass back markers, and that can bring little packs of cars coming up, and you can quite often see quite a bit of action there as they try to get past the other drivers. Signalling to the drivers is done by the flags. You see here the blue flag telling the drivers, or at least certain drivers, that faster cars are coming up from behind them. The marshal posts are situated all around the track. There can be flags, there can be lights. Also as well, you can see around the track these orange marks. Every time you see one of these orange marks, that means there's a gap in the barrier. There's a refuge point. So if you're off the track, look for an orange point, and that you should be able to then jump behind that and get to safety. Second and final pit window has now just opened, and you can see there's a lot of action going on now, a lot of cars coming in. Some of the drivers, you can see they're ready with their helmets on for a driver change as soon as their car arrives, right on cue. And over in the distance, I don't know if you can see it, but the forklift is out there. Someone has gone off the track. I did see a big cloud of dust kicking up from that area a while ago, and the safety car is out. So you will see the safety car coming round now. You're not allowed to overtake with the safety car, so the cars will all form up behind them. Occasionally they will let back markers past, and you need to keep an eye on them. But here comes the safety car, so everything is kind of put on hold at the moment as the cars are carrying on round, continuing their laps on the track. Just see the forklift in there and the marshals around sorting something out. Often the safety car will be around as they recover that off the track. Again, if that spun off in that area and the car got dumped there, you don't want the next car to spin off and then go into that as an obstacle. So there he is, I can see him getting towed now. So we might not, in fact he looks like he's away. So it looks like it's just maybe a tow out the gravel on the move, and the safety car might be coming in fairly soon. Here's the safety car again. You'll often see the cars behind weaving around. That keeps the temperature in the tyres as they need to get ready to race it as soon as that car comes in. So what will happen is the safety car will leave the field first off. Still, you are not allowed to pass until you pass that start-finish line. So there is the safety car coming in. We are not under green flag conditions yet until they pass the start finish line and they're going. So flashing green light, the race is back on. Final few minutes here of the race. We're here in the pit lane. So watching the live stream, there's a live stream going on of Alpha Live at the moment, and at least when you're watching the live stream you can see what's happening all around the track. Sometimes all you see is a cloud of dust in the distance, you're not sure what's going on. That's a handy way to keep an idea. There is live timing as well. You can log into the live timing and watch everything as it's going on. It's right down to the wire as well, and we have the last few minutes to go, and we're still battling with Peter Keane and Will Abram at the start. Now, at the moment, I think Peter Keane has taken the lead. Abram was holding it there for 4 or 5 laps, but there's going to be quite a battle, and there could be some interesting moves there pulled right at the end. And it's one of these, like poker, you don't want to show your hand, you want to wait till the last minute, as it doesn't matter if you were leading the race for 20 laps, it's who crosses the line first. And there the checkered flag is out. So that means this is going to be the last lap. We're waiting for the leaders to cross the line and set the order. And they're coming in now for the end of our first 116 trophy race of the season. First position there is Peter Keane. He's not a stranger to winning these ones. Second place there we have George Healer, and in third, he hasn't turned up yet and I'm not sure who it's going to be. I think it might be Mac Priestwood. We will see who will be next up to fill that grid position. And that's a wrap for the Brands Hatch weekend. So thanks for being with me on this little bit of an adventure. Hopefully you found that interesting. Not something I get accused of very often, but it has been known. And we'll see what we'll do at the next ones. I'd certainly like to thank all the teams, all the drivers, all the organisers, the marshals, because putting on a race like that, it's not easy. There's a hell of a lot to do, there's a hell of a lot to keep up with, and that's what it is. They all come together and they all make it happen. So a fantastic way to spend a weekend, meet a lot of people, make a lot of new friends. It's a fantastic hobby to have. They can be long days, but they're certainly worth it. So I'm coming up to home now, 2.5 hours for me. A lot of the other drivers, a lot of others, there's people there from further, there's people there from closer, but we do move around to a lot of different places around the UK, and yeah, it's the luck of the draw. You might have a close track, you might have a far track. The next one we've got coming up is Pembrey, and I think then Snetterton after that. So it's quite an eventful and packed calendar we have, with lots of things on. I think Alton as well. I think we have the BMW Live event coming up, and that's another great event. We've got BMW show on, and at the same time we've got the BMW racing, so a good few of the BMW racing ones.
Junction 5, use the left 2 lanes to take the A452 exit to Birmingham East.
I know that, I'm doing that, that's what I'm doing. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to show. So a BMW show with BMW racing, what more do you want?